All right. Welcome to the 5th installment of the Design Build Show. I'm here with Mr. Nick Schiffer.
NS Builders.
NS Builders. Awesome. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
We're here at Post 390, a great restaurant in Boston.
Just had delicious dinner.
Yeah. Had a great conversation. We should have been videoing the whole thing. We would have been able to go home.
Yeah.
And you guys could have just watched that. But Nick's been in business for 4 years.
Yeah.
He has an incredible following. He does things differently.
A little bit.
And that's good. I mean, we were just talking about how this industry needs to change. Right?
Yeah, I mean, the whole preface behind, we chatted obviously earlier, but really in the beginning it was building a brand and a culture that people were attracted to. And not just from a client standpoint, but from a subcontractor, from employees, from other professionals. You know, I wanted to build something a little bit different where we worked in a team effort. You know, no matter what, subs, our employees, like everyone came to work for the same reason because they really, really enjoyed what they did. And if I could give them the opportunity to showcase their, you know, obviously their craftsmanship and the effort that they wanted to put into it and promote that through social media, I was going to take advantage of that.
Awesome. Awesome. Now your tagline is design, build, repeat.
Yes.
But when I asked you, you know, you asked me what I call myself. I said a design builder.
Yeah.
I asked you what you called yourself. You said
Builder.
a builder.
Yeah.
And that's your background, right?
Yeah. Finished carpenter by trade. And for the last 20 months or so, I've really removed myself from the field and let, you know, the guys I've hired. So about 20 months ago, it was just myself and one other. And then over the course of the last, again, 20 months, we've hired now 8 as of today. And I've removed myself from the field because, number one, I'm focusing on growing my brand in the business, but also allowing the guys to learn, but also mess up and and kind of teach that way.
Yeah.
And learn that it's all right to mess up.
Yeah.
But yes, my background's, I'm a builder, I'm a finished carpenter. I consider myself a builder now because I've stepped out of that just strictly carpenter role.
Before it was a carpenter?
Yeah, definitely a
cool.
carpenter.
Yeah.
And there's days I miss it. And everyone's always like, "Oh, what's your goal, 5-year goal or 10-year goal?" And I think my goal would be to wake up and decide whether I want to put the belt back on or be a builder, you know?
Cool.
And just have that flexibility. Like I always say, like Tom Silva, like he wakes up on this old house and he decides whether he's going to boss people around or he's going to put the belt on and help. And I like that. And you know, there's every once in a while I have the opportunity to jump in the shop with the guys or in the field, but you know, the next day I wake up and I'm like, I didn't get anything done yesterday.
Yeah, right.
It's like I got 1,000 emails
I understand.
to answer.
I mean, well, that's good. You have skills in that area. I would be like, oh man, I just messed up this whole job.
my guys are gonna spend the next 3 days fixing it. Yeah.
So where does design build come into play?
To be totally honest, I think the design build repeat came into play with more of, it was more part of the branding. I was trying to build something that was recognizable, and you know, from a branding side of things, you know, when someone asks a question, it really drives them to think about something. So the design build repeat, even though it you know, to many it's silly, sometimes some people think it's stupid, and they always ask like, well, they get the design build part, but why repeat? That enough, like when they ask that question, that's enough for me, where it's like, you've already thought about this, so that's already engraved, and like you've already given this enough thought where that's going to stick with you.
Yeah.
But to play on that, so I'd say it was branding first, but to really dig into it, you know, for us, you know, we're not a design build firm. Technically, we don't have architect on staff, but we like to be involved as early in the process as possible.
Yeah.
So whether we, you know, sometimes we'll hire an architect as, you know, say a sub, and we'll hold it under our umbrella, or we'll work with an architect that the client's already working with.
Yeah.
But us being involved early on in the process allows us to, you know, help develop a budget and help develop a realistic budget as the design unfolds. Because, as you know, a design can get all the way to the end only to be budgeted to something that's not obtainable.
Yeah, and nowadays the architect traditionally nowadays is not held accountable for the budget. It's not in their Rolodex, right? It's not in their wheelhouse of what they're responsible for. And we were talking about for me, design build's all about accountability. So it seems like it's almost like a natural progression for you and your whole, I just see that a lot of what you're talking about,
and
right?
it's not, I'm not avoiding having an architect on staff by any means. I just think, I'm a carpenter and now a builder. I don't know how to necessarily hire an architect, right?
Right.
And I've worked with great architects, I've worked with successful architects, and I've worked with not great architects, but I know who I jive with.
Yeah.
So I think, going back to the whole culture of the business, it's like everyone that I hire is very much like this. We sit, have coffee, have a beer, and we'll chat, and if I like you, realistically, you're probably going to start work tomorrow.
Yeah.
And because we can work together and there's a good culture, and the level of, technical skill that you have might vary, and it might not meet the necessary criteria as an apprentice or a carpenter or a lead.
Yeah.
But I know that you're passionate, or you're in it for the culture and the right reason, where it's like, I can teach that side of it. I can teach the technical side. So I think, I think you're right in the sense that it could be a natural progression for us. We've just been successful with the approach we've had now, where we have the opportunity to work with different architects for different projects, and really allow, certain architects are good at traditional, certain architects are good at modern. I think my guys are skilled enough where they can sway back and forth. We tend to do a lot of the modern things because it takes a lot of effort to make it look good. Like modern, everyone's like, oh, it's easy. There's no base. There's no trim. It's
I know what you mean.
Those details.
You can tell if something's not plumb in a modern home, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of thought behind it. I mean, stuff has to line up.
Yeah.
If that ceiling isn't flat, everyone's gonna know it's not flat.
Yeah.
Traditional, that's okay if it's not flat.
Yeah.
The molding might cover it, or maybe it just looks like an old home.
Yeah.
And not downplaying either. I really like traditional, and I really like modern. So.
Cool. I'm writing a book right now.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be called The Architect Rebuilt.
Okay.
Or Building the Architect. And I'm studying a lot of the history of the architect. And the architect is Greek. The word is Greek for master builder. So traditionally, you started off as an apprentice. Then there was a lot of stone building. So traditionally, you'd be a stonemason. And then like the pinnacle there was like, you are now the master builder. You are the architect.
Right.
So when I say it's a progression, I think you might be heading in that direction, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think design has a lot to do with it, and I actually thoroughly enjoy the design. I really like thinking about, even in the rough framing, like when we're framing soffits, I'm sitting there imagining how light's coming through a window. And, is that shadow line going to be screwed up looking? Or if that soffit's on this side of the room, should we turn it into a tray ceiling?
Yeah.
Or, I'm thinking, rather than the technical, like we need a soffit because there's ductwork, it's like, yeah, I get the ductwork needs to be there, but how do we turn that soffit into something that looks like we thought about it? Right. And that's where, a lot of my guys really look to me when we're dealing with that side of rough construction. Yeah. And I'm watching them progress into like thinking that way, which is awesome. Yeah. Because I show up on site and I'm looking at a soffit that has nothing in it. I'm like, what's that for? Yeah. And they're like, oh, well, we have one across here, so when it's sheetrocked, it's going to look balanced.
Sure. Yeah. And that is design, right? And And the earlier that can be thought with, I think the better, right? It makes you're not then, not necessarily having to have that conversation on site, but earlier in the design process.
And the accountability is there too. Like as the builder, I could have just framed the soffit and said, "Well, the architect didn't draw a soffit over there." Instead, we'll take the approach of, let's make this a triangle. It's homeowner, architect, builder, and it shouldn't be, just two people. It has to be all three. Yeah. And before anything gets to the client, the homeowner, let's talk amongst the builder and architect. Like these are my thoughts.
The premise of the book really is like design build is a mentality,
right?
And it's all about accountability. And the best architects I know, the best builders I know, they look outside of their own sphere,
right? And
look to create a great project. And a lot of the things you've been talking about, it's like you didn't just start to, you started thinking about everybody involved, like the people that worked with you, the clients, so.
Right. And that's, there's a hashtag on Instagram we use a lot, is collaboration over competition.
Oh, awesome.
And Tom Silva actually mentioned it on our podcast. But it's like when you're collaborating rather than compete. Like, even though the architect is may run the job or have a contract with the client, and you have a contract with the client, you guys could be competing and butting heads the whole way. Like, the architect didn't draw it. The builder should have known that.
Yeah.
Instead, you collaborate on it, and at the end of it, the client is they're not micromanaging. There's no immaturity, in my opinion, where it's, he said, she said, and at the end of the day, the product comes out so much better.
Yeah.
Because two people were, thinking together every step of the way.
Taking responsibility for the whole project.
It's not leaning on or pushing the responsibility somewhere else where something went wrong. And that's something, I always, even in the worst situations, my guys have come back like, oh, it wasn't drawn. I'm like, I know it wasn't drawn.
Yeah.
Like, when I'm not blaming you for missing it, we need to think about this stuff.
Yeah.
And let's go back to the designer or the architect and let's just chat. It's like, well, who's paying for it? It's like, we'll figure that out. Like, that's not important right now. The important thing is that our client gets what they are expecting.
Yeah.
And what they're expecting is a professional builder and a professional architect to work together.
Like, you're very uncommon, right? Because you're, as a builder, architect separate, it's set up almost adversarial, right? Yeah. As a design build firm, that's why I like to have it all in-house, because we can control it. We can really be responsible for it. It's not out. So, but that's amazing to me, like, just that viewpoint. If everybody had that viewpoint, it would be different.
Well, we'd live in a totally different world.
Right? Yeah, but even like, you look at it, how it's set up, right? It's set up to be adversarial. And I was going to ask you the question, like, how do you counter that, or how do you get around that? And you just do, huh?
Yeah, we can even bring it down to, like, forget the architect for a second, even like a plumber.
Yeah.
Like, a plumber shows up, he plumbs a house, and there's an LVL in the way.
Yeah.
The first thing he's going to do is blame the framer.
Right.
Or, the electrician.
But what will a great plumber do?
He's going to call and be like, let's work through this. Hey, and before he even calls, offer a solution. Mm-hmm. Like, so and that's one thing, like, I will not call an architect with a problem. I'll call an architect with a problem with a solution.
Oh, man.
And that's, I don't understand. I honestly don't understand why people don't do that.
Yeah.
Because you're wasting so much time. Like, the fact that if I pick up the phone and say, hey, the LVL's in the wrong spot, call me with a solution, I'm wasting a day. Yeah. Minimum. Where it's like, hey, the LVL's in the wrong spot, but if we do this and do that, this could work. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Like, that's just second nature. Like, I've never even considered the other option.
Yeah.
Where, same thing with the plumber, electrician, where if there's an issue, don't call me with a problem, or don't email me with a problem, or don't tell me you're walking off the job. Call me and offer a solution.
Yeah.
And if you're going to offer a solution, maybe I have to put a carpenter back on the job for a day to fix something we screwed up.
Yeah.
I'm way more willing to do that if you call and offer a solution than if you call and say there's an issue, you need to fix it. Mm-hmm. Then I'm just going to be mad at you for, like, acting like a child.
Right.
And yeah, the carpenter's still going to be on site, but then, like, we're going to probably fix it, to the exact way we think that needs to be done, only not to know whether or not that's helpful to you or not.
Yeah.
So I think approaching problems with a solution, whether that solution is right or wrong, at least thinking in that mindset will train you to have less issues on a job.
Sure. Yeah. So. And how about pre-construction? So we're talking about a scenario, and I think it's great, like the analogy with the subcontractor does just break it down so clearly, how it's not just, it's collaboration, not competition throughout the whole facet of a project. That's really what makes a successful project. But what about, pre-design? Like, how do you say you're not a design build firm, but when we're talking, you are really kind of,
we operate
you're trying to like get ahead of it, right? So how do you do that?
So, a lot of times we'll get a call and say, hey, listen, we're working with an architect, we'd like to shop builders, and I usually pause the conversation. I say, listen, we need to, before we even talk about price, or like if we can do the job, or obviously if our schedule jives, if a rough budget jives, or maybe you don't have a budget, first we need to make sure that we like each other. So it starts with a personality. Like we sit down, we meet on the in person. We get through the whole, like, can we fit into our schedule? Does it work within our budget? Is it a typical scope, that we would handle?
Yep.
But from a pre-construction side, what we do is we operate on a retainer. So early on in the design, we'll try to get involved as early as possible. It could be a napkin sketch for all that matters.
Yep.
We want to, is you like me, I like you. All right, let's sign a retainer. And what that retainer is going to do is it will allow us to, have billable time applied to that retainer. And we'll work through that napkin sketch and say, based on that napkin, we're probably in the range of $200,000 to $300,000 for this renovation. All right, well, I was thinking that we were going to be somewhere around $250,000, so we're in the same ballpark.
Yep.
Great. Let's take this a step further. Let's do our preliminary drawings. And as those preliminary drawings are developed, we're basically billing time, but also offering our time to watch that design progress.
Yep.
And offer, history experience. Like, all right, we've done that before. That's going to drive our cost up.
Yeah.
Or why don't we do this instead of that? Because we'll be able to save money there.
Yeah.
And so by the time that preliminary set's done, now we're maybe saying, hey, this is going to be $225,000 to $270,000. Now we're even tighter on the budget.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Narrow.
Like, let's get to a design set. And then now we have selections starting being chosen. Now we start bidding out tile selections and furnishings and finishes and stuff like that. Now we get to the point where we almost have everything we need to sign a contract.
Yeah.
And full transparency on our end. It's like if we get to that point, you have a design that you can almost build off of at this point. You have a budget that you can basically say, I know exactly how much this project's going to cost.
Yeah.
Maybe at this point we don't like each other anymore. We can cut ties.
Yeah.
Like we're covered because we're billing our time in pre-construction.
But they have a product there, right?
They have a product.
Either way, I mean, if you did that for them, they'd probably be very endeared. They would put,
of course.
they always want you to do the work. I mean,
realistically,
at that point, right?
if you're at that point with the client, why would they not?
Yeah, and you too.
Right.
I mean, you set up the project to be successful, right?
Right, and what that retainer is allowing us to do is just that. We're covering our costs to put in the effort to meet with our subs, to sit down, maybe walk the project and get hard numbers. So yes, we're offering a product at the end of that service.
But shouldn't you just be doing that for free?
Well, this is the most common comment I get is people say, why don't more people do this?
Yeah.
And I honestly believe that people are afraid to charge for it.
It's just like been set up this way, right?
Yeah, it's like,
this
I need a free estimate.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Free
it doesn't.
estimate's fine.
Whereas that's half the value the client's getting in the design process. Otherwise, they can get to the end of the design process, have beautiful
Walk
drawings
away
to hang up
and
on their
bid
wall,
it.
not be able to build it, right? And it's twice.
Right.
How often does that happen? Has that happened to you? Where you get a set of drawings and it's twice,
absolutely,
3 times what
it's
the
like,
client
hey,
wanted to spend?
We're in construction drawings. Can you bid this? Sure. You're $1 million. Oh, well, we were hoping to be like 500.
Yeah.
Well, that's not what you have drawn.
Right. And so you go back.
Right. And that's exactly why people hire a design build firm. Is they want to be able to design and budget a project within their specs, so they have something tangible at the end of it.
So to not hire a design build firm, you have to almost like not care what it's going to cost. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it depends on the builder. We're not a design build firm, so that's why I promote us in the sense that let's get involved as early as possible.
No, I'm saying I'm kind of joking. But I do. But like
you're right.
Yeah, I am.
I mean, it's
to whatever extent, right? But
it's like, all right, we're going to design something all the way to the end. All right, we have everything picked out. And if you're at that point, money, I'm not going to say money can't be a concern, but you either have to have a really good understanding of what stuff costs, or the budget isn't as important.
Or you had a great architect who knows their limitations, who knows, who's really wants to design something that's built. So they're going to bring you in, or they're going to make sure that they're taking the steps properly. Because architects, I find, they don't build. So that's the role you're filling. Is like, hey, this is more buildable for the same cost, or that's going to be outside your budget range. So it's like it's helpful to have that information. You can't really make a decision without that information and not have to come back to it, right?
Right, and I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, you're not only wasting time, but you're also wasting money, because if you get to that point with an architect, you've invested thousands of dollars to get to a design that you find out that you can't build.
Yeah.
You cannot physically afford to build that product.
Yeah.
And now they don't have any time. They're like, oh, we designed what you said.
Yeah.
This is what you asked.
And I've spoken to builders like who play that game, and it's like they're in cahoots with the architect. You know, it's almost like change orders are. I've heard them say, you know, and it's like
they make that how they make the money.
They're making the architect more money too, right? It's
that's frustrating to me, because the longer I'm in business and the more I do this, the more transparent I try to be.
Yeah.
Which has bitten me in the ass, but it's also been really great. With the clients that want to work with us, it's great.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't want to write change orders. It's just more work. So, you know, we've priced jobs where a client will say, you know, hey, this is our budget. All right, I price the job off, you know, a pricing set. I meet with the architect. We're 1.5 times their budget. And they're like, all right, so let's reduce this, this, and this. All right, okay, now we're at like 40% over their budget. And I get to a point, you know, and I remember one specific one. I was like, all right, I'm over. Like, we're not going to be able to do the job. And we went through line item by line item on our proposal. And this is something that we got a pre-construction agreement with. We had a retainer. I'm being paid to put this proposal together to be accurate. And the client walked through and they're like, no, everything's covered. Like, I figured we were going to be 40% over.
Right.
Everything's here. So why not just proceed off this? Like, this is what I really thought it was going to cost.
Right.
You know, and that happens a lot. Like, on all size projects, it's like a lot of people they're going to give you a budget number knowing that in their mind, all right, I know it's going to cost 140, but I'm going to tell them 100, because that way it gives me 40% contingency.
Yeah.
Well, depending on what stage we're pricing a project, I'm going to throw a contingency in immediately, and I'm going to sit down with the client and say, before you look at the bottom number, we have 10% contingency in that cost. So that's just money that we don't know if you're going to spend or not. So take that out and just plan on having that $10,000 in a piggy bank somewhere if we run into something.
Yeah.
Or because you haven't fully designed it.
Yeah.
Or maybe we don't, are we doing a steam shower? Like anything.
Yeah.
So, and I'm going in a little bit of a circle here, but that's why being involved early on, we helped develop that process.
Yeah.
And being able to charge for that, you know, in a pre-construction agreement, taking a retainer, and being accurate with your proposal. Because someone calls and they want a free estimate, sure. All right. This is the drawing. All right, you're probably, I don't know, $400,000 to $600,000. Well, that doesn't help me. I'm like, you asked for a free estimate. Like, that's as free as I can get.
I told you when we interview designers, I always have them bring a set so I can spend 15 minutes, and I always am just looking for things I don't understand, but I'm always amazed. I'm like, somebody went through this, 50 sheets.
Yeah.
If I were to do that, and then I have all these questions, if I were to get my questions answered and properly get them answered and get that's a week.
Who's paying for that?
Yeah, it's incredible. It's really that's why there's like the system is a little broken there. It just doesn't make a lot of sense, and I think we're similar in that we'd rather be upfront with people, keep things simple too. I'm not that I'm not so smart that I can start to like.
Well, we talked about it. The reputation that the industry has, right? I hate to use the word sneaky, but like there's that level of discreetness to the industry. Like, well, what's his markup, or what's his fee, or what's that? Like, he buys his plumbing fixtures for.
And we talked about also how whatever those numbers are it's like I've had you've probably had this question. You go to a vendor, what do you want me to show the client?
Yeah.
It's already.
Or I'll get the email like, "Hey, this is your price, but here's the invoice."
Yeah, it's like rigged price. To be. It's like to get around.
For what?
Being It's so complicates
right.
things.
So when they walk into the showroom, and then the sales lady's like, "Yeah, you know what? I'll give you the builder's discount," and then they come back and they're like, "Hey, we got a builder's discount." Yeah. Like I've been in that position before. Yeah. We used to just blanket markup everything.
Yeah.
And it was constant. I'd call and be like, So you sent me an invoice for 40% more to show the client. The client came in the store and decided to purchase them themselves.
Right.
And then got 40% off list.
Yeah.
Like this isn't how you were trying to set up where we were going to make more money.
Yeah.
Why not? How about I just
instead you just created a problem.
Like instead, I'm just going to be transparent. This is what we paid.
Yeah.
Here's what you pay us to do the job.
Yeah.
If you don't want us to do the job, those are all the numbers you need to do the job. Manage it yourself.
I'd really like to make a change in that department. It would just simplify things, tremendously for people.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's really the transparency, and I think, to speak to social media, like for us, that's really what we decided I decided in promoting the business and the culture that we have, is that let's just be transparent and own our mistakes. Own the process. We're not perfect. When someone calls us out on something, like you can't. I post a picture with a grout line that's screwed up. I know I'm getting called out, and I'll just wait. And I'll wait for that one guy that's like, yeah, it looks great. Your grout sucks. It's like, all right, cool, man. Like, I appreciate your feedback. Like, let's be a little bit more, like bring something more to the table.
Right.
But we'll talk about it. Like in that, we're not perfect, but
yeah.
Explaining the process and being open about it rather than trying to hide and be.
Oh man, it's like invigorating. It makes you feel good, when you've made a mistake, and everybody makes mistakes.
Right.
Nobody's perfect. Even so, just owning that. Right. And then the client, we got a letter this week from a client who was selling a house. We put a condenser in a location that was complained about by a neighbor. It was not within the setback.
Sure.
We moved it to an area. We had to do a whole. It was not. We learned a lesson on that one, right? So, but they were so appreciative, man. They had moved, and it just made us feel good,
right?
And
I mean, and that speaks volume to the fact that you went and corrected it. It's like so many people would have been like, it's not my problem.
Yeah. And when you have a separate architect and when you have a separate builder,
architect told me to put it there.
You get this, right? So just having the mentality like you do for a client eliminates that. And even, you could hire a design build firm.
Sure.
They could still get around it, right?
Oh,
they could still. So it's really.
Yeah.
And then
we told you in the beginning that the condenser was going to be there and it was going to be this loud, and you said okay.
Yes.
It says right here in the contract.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what does that do? That client will never refer you.
And I agree. And even at the end of the day, when we talk about transparency, what really is being transparent? Because you can show the client whatever the client wants to see.
Right.
So it's really like, for me, it's really just, the client, from the client's point of view, they've got to have a gut feeling. They've got to feel comfortable with this.
They have to trust you.
Yeah, and like with you being transparent, you're just showing people what you're doing all the time on social media.
Right.
So
if we're not at your job,
it aligns with that,
there,
right? So you're building that trust just in doing what you're doing.
I mean, everyone wants to know, well, what's too much transparency? And that's, you can decipher that any way that you want. I mean, some clients don't want to see the whole breakdown. Some clients just don't. You need to you have to cater your transparent approach to the clientele that you want to work for. So if you want to only work for clients that don't want to see, they just want, give me a check, give me a bill.
Yeah. The client really wants to know they're getting a fair price,
right?
Or they don't want to be overpaying, right?
Right.
So as long as, if a client doesn't remodel every day, they don't build houses every day. They look at a line item what context are they evaluating? Right. Are they able to evaluate? It's not super helpful for them,
wait,
right?
Plumber has this, all right, how about, all right, plumbing is this.
Yeah.
This is the number for plumbing. Oh, okay, I got that.
Yeah.
And this is the plumbing for the number for electrical.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be line by line, every single line, for us at least. I'm speaking to us. Just, they want to understand, but you're right, they just want to, there's a level of trust both ways, right?
Yeah.
And I think that goes back to our initial consult. It's we're going to sit down like this, and you're going to get to know me, and I'm going to get to know you, and we're going to walk away, and we're going to say, were there any red flags? Like, was that client going to be an issue?
Yeah.
Or was that builder going to be an issue for
Yeah.
me? Like, we want to make sure we like each other. We're in
Yeah.
your life for a good part of the year.
Yeah.
If maybe more.
Yeah.
So if we think we might not like each other, that's probably a really good time to not go on a second date.
Yeah.
And if we think, hey, we're going to like each other, then there's a level of trust, because you trust me to do a particular job, I trust you to pay. We work, you pay. We work, you pay. Like,
Yeah.
that's the relationship.
Yeah.
And and depending on how transparent that approach is, or how that service is, will dictate how that relationship sways throughout the progress.
Yeah. Awesome. Just jumping off a little bit,
Yeah.
but one of the things I love about design build is the loop, right? Because you're designing it, you're building it. When you're building it, you're getting that feedback right then and there. And then when the project is done, maybe there's warranty things, and you can always feed that back into the design and make it better the next time, right?
Right.
Do you have any examples of that? I'm feeding you on the concrete floor.
Yeah.
And like just how that changed things going forward for you. Like obviously you never made that mistake again, but
I did not.
Yeah, but just that loop, like how
There is. I mean, especially because we talk about it, right? And I'm gonna answer this a little bit in a couple directions, but when there is a mistake, rather than hiding it or not talking about it or trying to get around it and not fix it, instead, I almost make a little bit too much of a big deal about it. It's like, hey guys, everyone, come here. We messed this up.
Yeah.
It's like, we messed this up. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's over talk about it. And let's figure out how we fix it.
Yeah.
Well, this is what we need to do. It's going to cost this much money. All right. The money portion, I get. Like, it's like at the end of the day, we need to make sure the product is right for the client.
Yeah.
And because that client will refer us based on our performance.
Yeah.
If our performance is poor, we don't get referred.
Right.
We make the mistake, and I'll talk about it, and we'll sit down, and we'll make sure that it's known, that the whole team knows the mistake that was made. The client at this point probably knows, because I probably posted a picture about it, and we'll talk about it real quick. It's like, this is what it took to fix. Now, what that is doing is the client sees it, respects our transparency, the team sees it, they see that, all right, hey, remember that time we put the wall faucet too high and Nick ripped all the tile off the wall and made us move it? Yeah, let's not do that again.
Yeah.
Let's make sure that when we're putting a wall faucet, we call Nick and the lead and the designer to make sure that we know the height.
Yeah.
Or get a drawing for
Yeah.
it.
So everybody's learning from it.
Right, and rather than I could have just went in secretively, ripped the tile off the wall, moved the faucet down, and put the tile back, and no one would have known about it, and it would have happened again.
Yeah.
Instead, like, let's really, really learn from the mistake. And
Yeah.
I think that goes with the warranty. It's like, you're avoiding a warranty issue. Like, maybe we installed the faucet and we forgot the washer, like, and then the thing leaks.
Yeah.
It's a warranty issue.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Like, why did we forget about the washer?
Yeah.
What was the reason? Did it not come with it?
Yeah.
Did the plumber forget about it?
Yeah.
Just making mistakes more known and humanizing us as builders, architects, and people, like humanizing that portion of it, will, I think, entail like really elevate the respect that the trade has, because we're not trying to sweep anything under the rug anymore.
Yeah, I agree, man. That's awesome.
So,
Well, thank you very much for
thank
being
you.
on the show. You've inspired me.
Likewise.
Yeah.
I can't wait to read the book.
Yeah,
so.
it's going to change the world. I really do believe that. In the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to see, universities, the way architects are trained change, because it really should be like this. You should have the architect or the person who's going to be like fully in charge of the whole process know how to do the whole process. Right? Makes the most sense. So,
I think, especially with technology now, it's there's so much less that we can hide, that everyone really needs to collaborate. And a design build is a perfect example of that. The collaboration is the only way, not the only way, but the collaboration will make the success easier for all parties, including the client.
Yeah.
So
Awesome. Thank you, Nick.
yeah, thank you.